to GCSE Product Design, Design Influences number 4, Aesthetics. Raymond Loewy, a famous industrial designer from the States, once said, "Between two products equal in price, function and quality, the better looking one will outsell the other." Whether he sounded like that, I'm not sure. But what he basically meant is if you've got two products that look the same, all right, and work the same, if there is one that actually is a little bit better looking, it will go for that. And that all comes down to aesthetics, okay, which is what we're talking about today. Now, it's derived from Greek. The term aesthetics means the perception of beauty, okay? Now, obviously, it takes all five senses to create an aesthetic experience like taste and touch. And it's not just how something looks, but in terms of design, it's pretty much the most important part of aesthetics. Now, there are 9 elements of aesthetic design, okay? So being able to use these words, these terms, show that you know what you're talking about in terms of aesthetics, okay? So I'm just going to read them out because this is one of the questions on your class list, okay? We're going to look at line, shape, size, texture, colour, form, balance, proportion, and symmetry, okay? So the first thing we're going to look at that in terms of line is all about the sort of where two shapes meet. You know, sometimes cars are described as having a nice line. Yeah, it's almost like the profile. If you traced it, it's just got a nice line to it. All right, little things like these shapes, like that. Okay. Now, in terms of shapes, you can get geometric shapes or organic shapes. Geometric shapes are shapes that you're familiar with from maths: squares, rectangles, octagons. Organic shapes are the more sort of free-flowing type of shapes. All right. Size is also important when we talk about aesthetics. Sometimes, you know, the size of an object can appear to be too big, too small, and can influence our opinion of it. When we talk about texture, it's not just the actual texture, the surface quality. It could be like a visual representation. For example, this photo looks smooth and rough. It's just a photo. If you actually touch the screen, it's not smooth, it's not rough. All right, so you can get these kind of textures. But obviously you can get physical versions, all right? But this is purely a visual sort of texture. In terms of colour, all right, we're going to look at colour theory separately, but remember that colour can sway thinking, it can influence you, it can cause a reaction. Certain colours imply danger, certain colours imply safety. When we think of form, form is different to shape. All right, shape is 2D, form is 3D shapes. Okay, so things like spheres and cubes and cones, they're forms. When we think of balance, it's all about whether or not, let's say, like displays appear cluttered. Sometimes, you know, you can have a design where there's just too much going on, and it kind of leads to like a sort of visual sort of headache. All right, things that aren't balanced. So if you look here, you know, the old iPhone design here, everything is quite neat and organized, nice and balanced. It doesn't cause any stress when you look at it. Whereas this control here for some sort of treadmill thing, there's just so much going on, it just gives you a headache just looking at it. When we think of proportions, all right, that's all about the size of one part in relation to another. Okay, so often beautiful people are described of having like sort of very well proportioned faces in terms of the size of their forehead compared to the length of their nose or how far apart their eyes are. If you try and get it wrong, you can look really weird. When we look at symmetry, symmetry is just something that's the same on both sides. And generally, symmetry is very pleasing. However, the opposite of symmetry, which is something called asymmetry, okay, so if a shape is asymmetrical, it can also be pleasing. All right, so we've got an example there of a symmetrical staircase, a symmetrical mouse, and an asymmetrical mouse. And finally, the last thing I want you to do is just to answer a quick question at the end, a short evaluation of the aesthetics of this product. Okay, so are you able to talk and use the terms that we've just talked about recently? And then finally, a typical exam question might be something like this. Might seem a bit scary because it's kind of like a graphics question. But imagine this is like packaging for some biscuits, and there's different layout styles, and it wants you to write a short evaluation of the biscuit packaging. So again, look back at those terms, things like line, colour, proportion, and give an informed opinion. Is the proportion well? You know, is it well proportioned? Are the colours nice? Okay, and evaluations don't have to be positive, they can be negative, But the key thing is what they're looking for there, I would say, is make sure you use the correct terms. You expect to see words like line, symmetry, shape, all right, and some form of opinion based on that. Okay, thanks for listening.